We've discussed the use of data and identifying variables, with specifically distinguishing between rows and columns, with the rows being the individual participants' responses and the columns referring to the questions. Now we'll talk about selecting variables and distinguishing between what variable we are interested in predicting, aka the outcome variable, which we then distinguish from the variable or variables that we classify as the predictors. The main distinction is with respect to which variable we want to make predictions about. In the context of trying to understand suicide, this means that we're going to be using suicide as an outcome variable, and for each participant in our data set, be generating predictions. Predictions can take the form of probabilities. For example, say I generate a prediction of 0.8 that an individual has thought about suicide. Or we can generate actual labels for this individual, such that we believe that they either have attempted suicide or haven't. And for another person, we believe that they haven't attempted suicide. In distinguishing between predictors and outcomes, predictors are what we're going to be using to actually generate the predictions. This can be one variable, or it can be multiple variables in the form of hundreds or thousands. In our simple example, we go back to the document of predicting whether somebody has recently attempted suicide with whether they've recently been thinking about suicidal ideation. Suicidal ideation is an incredibly important predictor for more suicidal outcomes, such as plans, attempts, or deaths. So using suicidal ideation as a predictor in this context, we can visualize this in the standard way that we often visualize things in statistics, in which we represent our variables in the data set with squares, as we can see for both the predictor and the outcome. Again, these correspond to individual columns in our data set. And we separate the outcome and the predictor or predictors with this arrow. The predictor is shown from where the arrow is coming from, here, with the head of the arrow is going to be on the outcome, here. Just meaning that the predictor is going to be used to generate predictions about the outcome variable. Oftentimes in statistics, we can add an additional way to tell predictors and an outcome apart with X's and a Y. Y is traditionally used to label an outcome variable, whereas X is most often assigned to mean predictor or predictors. Now, with understanding the difference between predictors and an outcome, we can get into more complex modeling and discuss how to select additional predictors. Machine learning can easily incorporate a large number of predictors, but we will always be working with a single outcome variable.